7 days, 2 bodies found, and no cause of death. Santa Fe law enforcement continue to remain tight-lipped about the suspicious death investigation into Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their dog. But today we're learning some new information. This time, a possible mistake was made in identifying and investigating one of Hackman's dogs. We're on the case, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. It could be weeks, if not longer, until we get final autopsy results for Hollywood legend Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their dog. That dog is a big piece of evidence in this case as we try and figure out the cause of death for Gene Hackman and his 65-year-old wife Betsy Arakawa. Again, Hackman was 95 years old. And today we're learning that law enforcement may have made an initial mistake when it comes to identifying the dog that was found dead not far from Arakawa in a bathroom inside the home. Remember, the 95-year-old Hackman and his wife, 65-year-old Arakawa, were found in separate rooms of their $3.3 million mansion in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Hackman was in a mudroom with his cane by his side and sunglasses. Arakawa was found on a bathroom floor. According to details in the search warrant, deputies say they found a dog that had passed away about 10 to 15 feet from Arakawa in a closet of the bathroom. It's also been reported that the dog was in some sort of kennel or carrier, and it likely did not have the ability to move around. At this point, how that dog died, it's as much a mystery as its owners. Along with the one dog that had passed away, the deputies say Hackman and Arakawa's 2 other dogs were found alive. This couple loved animals. We have heard it from so many people who knew them as they've been remembering this couple over the past 7 days since they were first found dead. Now, when it comes to those 2 dogs that were found alive, one of them was seen near Arakawa's body inside the home, then the other was reported as running freely on the property. Originally, it was reported, according to the Associated Press, that the couple's German Shepherd named Bear was the dog that passed away. But now it's believed that Bear is alive. And it was the couple's 12-year-old Australian Kelpie mixed breed named Xena who is the dog that was actually found dead inside that closet in the bathroom. The outlet reports that the German Shepherd named Bear and the couple's 7-year-old Akita Shepherd mix named Nikita are the 2 that were found alive, and they're being held at an animal care facility called Santa Fe Tails in New Mexico. Now, the Santa Fe County Sheriff told the AP that misidentification of the dogs, it's likely just the result of deputies not regularly dealing with canines like they are in this case. Now, what could the misidentification of a dog actually mean to this investigation into the deaths of its owners? Frankly, it could end up meaning nothing, but the cause of death for that dog could be a key piece of evidence in this investigation that is now continuing. The sheriff has ruled out carbon monoxide as a cause of death for the couple and their dog, but one of the new few pieces of information that we have this week from the sheriff was this release that went out on Tuesday. It says that the local gas company did an extensive search of the Hackman house and they found no significant leaks, but there was a very small leak from a stove burner, but it was not large enough to be lethal. On Friday, the sheriff of Santa Fe County told us that the preliminary autopsy was not able to identify the cause of death, and the autopsy on both Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa could take weeks, if not longer, to come back. We're also waiting on key toxicology tests to come back. Now, we've been told part of the reason that the autopsy could take weeks, the sheriff said it potentially could take months to come back, is because of the backlog of cases awaiting autopsies. It is an issue that is happening in so many police departments across the country. But the Santa Fe sheriff has also said that a full investigation is being conducted as we speak. What appears to be a challenge, though, at least thus far, is that Hackman and his wife, they lived a very private life. Here's what the Santa Fe sheriff had to say about that.
Sheriff, was there any surveillance video, and is that helping you to determine what may have led up to this?
That's a good question, and that question's been asked. So, I respect the Mr. Hackman's and Ms. Arakawa's regard for privacy. I think everybody here understands that they were very private individuals and a very private family. There is no surveillance, as we know of right now, in the interior of the residence or the exterior of the residence that is going to help us determine a timeline or events that happened.
I want to thank Upside for sponsoring this episode of On the Case. Upside is a free app that gives you cash back for buying everyday essentials like gas or groceries. I just downloaded the Upside app, went to a gas station 4 minutes from my house, filled up my tank, and got $7 cash back. You can also use Upside at convenience stores. You can use it at restaurants when you go out to eat. And we are talking about real cash back. This is money that will appear in your Upside app. Then you transfer it straight to your bank account. And once you have the free Upside app, you can claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using debit or credit. You follow the steps on the app and then you get paid. So what you can do now, scan the QR code on your screen. You can download the free Upside app or head down to the description in this video and we have a link there for you to use. Then on top of that, use promo code OTC and you'll get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank of gas using the free Upside app. We know that while Hackman and Arakawa were fixtures in the Santa Fe community for decades, Arakawa was the co-owner of a luxury home goods store in town. It appears that they were living a much more private life as of late. Hackman's daughter Leslie told the Daily Mail that she was close with their dad, but she hadn't spoken with him for months. Then the Mail spoke with the housekeeper for Arakawa's mother, who's 91 years old and lives in Hawaii. The housekeeper said that Arakawa hadn't spoken with her mom since October, but before that, they regularly talked on the phone at least once a month. It is unclear what led to that lack of communication, according to this housekeeper. Now, Hackman and Arakawa were married in 1991. Hackman's 3 children were from his first marriage to his wife, who he divorced in 1986. At 95 years old, we know that Hackman's health was taking a turn for the worse of late, according to people who knew this couple. A family friend spoke to People and said that Arakawa was trying to keep Hackman active and engaged, but his health was slipping in recent months. Deputies say they plan to speak with everyone who recently came in contact with the couple. That includes the maintenance worker and caretaker, who were the first to find them and then call deputies back on February 26th. That maintenance worker, named Jesse Kepler, released this statement to Law&Crime, declining to elaborate on what they saw when they arrived at the home, but thanking Hackman and Arakawa for years of, quote, opportunity, friendship, and trust. The statement also notes that Hackman and Arakawa's love of dogs, not just of their own dogs, but Kessler's dog as well. Deputies did not note whether the dog showed signs of decomposition like Hackman and Arakawa did. Specifically, you might remember Arakawa showing signs of mummification in her hands and feet. Hackman's pacemaker recorded its last event 9 days prior to the couple being found. We are going to hear more from a veterinary forensic pathologist in a moment, but he told me those details could help with the timeline of what happened, comparing the decomposition of the dog's body to his owner's body. At this point, law enforcement has said that a necropsy, which is like an autopsy for an animal, has not been done. We know deputies took several pieces of evidence from the home: 2 cell phones, MyQuest medical records, a daily planner for 2025, as well as thyroid medication and Tylenol. Deputies also noted they took a calcium-blocking heart medication with them too. And while pills were found scattered on the counter near Arakawa in the bathroom, the sheriff wouldn't say what the medication was or who the medication was prescribed to. From the beginning, deputies have said there are no signs of foul play, but with so few clues out of the gate, they have called the deaths of the Hollywood legend and his wife, as well as their dog, suspicious and unique, and the sheriff has not ruled any possibility out as of yet. Joining us now is Dr. Adam Stern, veterinary forensic pathologist at the University of Florida. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Your background is perfect as we're kind of dissecting this case and particularly the dog that was found deceased at the scene. For you and in your experience, what stands out to you about this dog and how it was found and how it factors into the Hackman death investigation?
Yeah, sure. So first off, thanks for having me here. It's glad to be chatting with you about this. I, like you, we're seeing different reports about what is going on, and I've seen very little really specific to the dog itself. But what stands out to me is the fact that it seems to have been in some sort of cage, some sort of something that was confining it. And so it might be the dog was just happened to be in that location, not being able to get out. But I'd like to know more information about the scene itself and how that dog was found.
Yeah, and it's been reported that a necropsy, which is, to my understanding, an autopsy for an animal, that hasn't been conducted, or doesn't seem like authorities have wanted to. I don't know, but like it hasn't been done yet. Why do you think that is?
So again, I'm not sure about that, but I read a report that said that there was no necropsy autopsy that was going to be performed, and it was just sort of a one line in one news report. I find that in some ways not to be unusual, especially there are some human fatalities associated with this case, but at the same time, the animal can provide useful information just as much as an autopsy of the human. So I always say you look at all possible individuals, human or animal, and then put all that information together.
What is some of the information from that type of examination that you could extract that could factor into the overall questions we have about this dog's owners, Betsy Arakawa and Gene Hackman?
Yeah, well, the first thing that seems to have been ruled out multiple ways, but again, the animal can help, was the possible carbon monoxide poisoning. If there was a leak in the house, that animal would accumulate that gas, and there's things that we could look for in it that would, confirm, refute, or refine what was being thought of in this case. But we could also look at sort of that animal's death specifically. If it truly was confined, maybe it died of dehydration. Not so much starvation. I don't think enough time has really elapsed. But if there is foul play, there are some theories about that. Uh, Potentially, what did the animal ingest if it died around the same time as the humans or died later? Uh, that sort of information would be pretty helpful to start to put a little bit more of that timeline together.
And with that timeline, with based off Gene Hackman's pacemaker, it's believed it was roughly 9 days from the time that he was found that it's believed he passed away because that pacemaker had what's being called its last event. Typically, for a dog, I know food. Could a dog go 9 days without food? And I guess how long could a dog go if it is a case where they just didn't have access to food because they were locked up? Like how long could a dog survive before passing away?
So a dog can actually survive a long time without food. It's the water that's the problem. Same thing with you or I. We can go a while without food, but the fact that we can't get any water, we will get severely dehydrated within a couple of days. The other thing is medical history on this dog. I'm not sure of what it is, but if this animal had some underlying disease that could have been exacerbated by dehydration, say maybe had some chronic renal disease, that could make things worse quicker.
And I know the world of veterinary forensic pathology. We were talking before on air. It's a small community, but it's typically like a necropsy. Is that something like a veterinarian could do at a typical veterinary hospital, or would the dog need to go to a more specific place to get that examination done?
Yeah, so every veterinarian in school, we teach them how to perform these postmortem exams, how to perform the autopsy. But in a high-profile case like this, my recommendation would always be to go to specialists who sort of deal with this on a daily basis. And so we have the additional tools, different testing techniques that we have available, so we can do that meticulous dissection, just like you would a medical examiner's office for the human.
There's a story that's starting to get some traction today that the dog that passed away was misidentified, that it was actually one of Gene Hackman's other animals that died. And then Bear, who was this German Shepherd, is in fact alive. Beyond, certainly for people who know the family and love animals, you want to know which dog passed away and which one's still alive. But as far as the investigation's concerned, could any of that have an impact? Does any of that, I guess, actually matter, even though it's making headlines?
I think again, not knowing the background to it, this was a dog that has a shepherd look to it. And so to the untrained eye, and sometimes even to the trained eye, you misidentify a breed just because there are similarities in some breeds. The dogs look a little different. In this case, a German Shepherd and the Kelpie here, they kind of have a shepherdy look to it. So I don't think I would personally read too much into it. It's the totality of what the dog was in and the rooms and all of that, which would be more of a concern.
Is there anything from the two dogs that were alive? One was reportedly near Betsy Arakawa, and then the other one was outside. It said it was the search warrant said that the dog was roaming on the property. Is there any information that we can get from those two dogs that were alive that could factor into this?
Well, I think you're looking at what's different. So that one dog that had access to outside, if it was, let's just go with a gas in the air, which is probably less likely now, it would have access to normal atmospheric gases. The dog that was sort of free, did it have access to water? Maybe in a toilet bowl, or was there a dog bowl around? Some way to hydrate itself, unlike the dog that was confined. So I think you're going to find some good information about the scene that might explain why those dogs survived.
Are there further tests that you could do on those dogs that were alive that could provide some information about what happened in the home?
Yeah, so some of the things that we can do, would be like drug testing. So testing the dog's urine to see if they maybe ingested the same thing, but maybe a lesser amount. We can do overall medical exams of them to just check their overall health and compare it to the autopsy findings of the dog and so on.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I just think of how the dog kind of factors in because in the beginning, when people thought CO poisoning, the dog was really one of the key places, and we just haven't learned too much. What do you make of and there's so much we don't know that the cause of death for that dog has yet to be reported by the sheriff's office?
Right. So we can look at this case sort of in two ways. Maybe all the deaths are related, the same thing happened to them, but at the same time, maybe we find that Gene Hackman and his wife, there's a medical conditions and everything else that played a role, and unfortunately for that confined dog, it was just the confinement that resulted in its demise. So I think getting the autopsy will be really, really helpful. And then it might just, provide another piece to the puzzle of what happened, related or sort of secondary to the primary event.
And I just, since we have you on today, and I always love to have people who are on in kind of the different spaces of solving crimes. How did you get into forensic pathology when it comes to animals? And I guess what gets you excited about it, and why it's important?
Well, to answer the why it's important first is because there's this relationship. It's called the link between animal cruelty and other types of interpersonal violence. So domestic violence, elder abuse, child abuse. And so we see this connection sort of day in, day out. And so sometimes the animal is really the first way we start to identify problems. And so that's the sort of reason why we do this and we have this really growing field. I got into it during my training to become a pathologist. I was involved in a couple of cases where we were working up, potential starvation cases, different crimes against animals, and I really saw that there was a very limited amount of specialists in that area, and sort of that detective sort of feel to it, trying to put a story together, giving a voice to the ultimate voiceless victim is sort of how I got into the field itself.
No, and it's so incredibly important. And kind of just turning back, like something I thought about, just turning back to this case as we've been following it. And when you're in law enforcement, I mean, there's something that comes their direction every single day that they may not expect. Um, by and large, I mean, how aware, I mean, I know that law enforcement agencies use canines and those are such important tools, but in these particular cases, based off the fact that there was this misidentification of the dog to begin with, I guess, what is the level of awareness that typically law enforcement has as far as piecing together how a dog may factor into the death of human beings like we have in this case?
I think it really varies, really from agency to agency, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. There are some that will know that there are different facilities, different specialists that are out there that can 100% help and work up the case. And then there's the complete opposite side where some of these agencies unfortunately just don't know that there's tools available until after the fact. And so in this case, I'm not sure. I don't want to make any assumptions.
Right.
But oftentimes it really goes the gamut from complete just lack of awareness to we do it every day, all the time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as we wait for autopsies to come back for Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, and that could take weeks. What the answer is to the cause of death for this dog as well, because that is certainly important as this mystery continues in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Dr. Stern from the University of Florida, thank you for taking the time to be with us here on Law and Crime. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
As this mystery continues, we're going to keep a close eye on this story. For On the Case, presented by Law and Crime, I'm Chris Stewart. We'll see you next time.